If you want to learn how to grow an 8-figure Amazon wholesale business, then my God, you're in for a special treat today. I'm here with Dan 1000 ASINs, and he's going to share everything from the beginner information to high-level masterminding expert tips about working collaboratively with other wholesalers. This is going to be game-changing. Stay tuned. Dan, thank you so much for your time. And if you can introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself and your journey so far, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. So yeah, my name is Dan. I go by 1000 ASINs on Instagram. I'm just a regular guy who's built a 8-figure a year Amazon business. Started about 5 years ago on a very small scale. Like many of you, watching a couple YouTube videos, getting your feet wet. I scaled from just working out of my house, buying very small quantities, testing the waters, and I every year kind of just doubled my sales, kept snowballing, all my profit into more inventory, and was able to get to where I am today with doing about $1 million of sales a month. I hope to kind of 2x that over the next 12 months. Last year I grossed 12 million. This year I'll probably do about 15 plus, maybe $1 million on other channels like eBay, Walmart, delving into Amazon Canada, FBA, doing a little wholesale. So kind of branching out in terms of number of channels, but also trying to get that revenue and therefore income number up as well. So that's where I'm at now. And happy to share any tips, tricks, insights, personal anecdotes to help you along the way.
I met you originally in Miami. We spoke there and obviously at the interview. And the one thing that really struck me about Miami was the fact that just your growth was incredible. Can you just run through just the rough top line revenue numbers for the last, I think it's 4 or 5 years?
I think I started in 2018 in July. So it was kind of a partial year. I did something like 20,000 in sales. That was kind of just the test. And then, but yeah, that felt just as good as where I'm at now, which is actually pretty funny. Maybe even better. 2019, I think I grossed about $1 million, something like that. I did have a pretty bad suspension that year. I was down for 3 or 4 months of it. So there was a rebuilding period from there. So I think year three was during the beginning of the pandemic. And there are a couple products that I hit the right product at the right time, was able to generate a lot of profit the first couple months of the year. That kind of just brought me to the next level in terms of what I could spend for inventory. So year 3, I ended up doing close to 4 million in sales. So I really 4X'd that year. That was a big turning point for the business. So I went 20,000, 1 million, 4 million. The next year was 6 million. So a measly 50% growth, which by all normal standards would still be considered a good year. Then I 2X'd from there to 12 million. And then, this year I'm on pace for more like 15, maybe a little more. We'll see how Q4 goes.
If you kind of look at your percentage growth, it's kind of a little bit massive, a little bit massive, a little bit massive. High level wise, how do you succeed on Amazon wholesale? Tell me that, high level.
I mean, the business model is exceptionally simple, which is nice. It's buy low, sell high. You buy at prices where you can resell for a profit. The trickier part is finding those products. That's essentially it on a high level. It's negotiating the right prices for the right products that sell, taking that money and not go blowing it on your lifestyle, but actually reinvesting that money. If you want to grow in an inventory business, it's very difficult to take money out of the business because your entire growth is fueled by the additional capital you have to then buy more products and sell more products. So if you're pulling out your profit, you're literally stifling your growth if you're buying items with the same, margin ROI. So it's almost a necessity to keep money in the business or secure financing to allow you to spend more money. It's finding profitable products and then buying more of them over time if you want to grow the business.
If someone's getting started today, what is the kind of approach? Is it find products that you want to sell first? Is it find wholesalers that you want to do first? What's your kind of starting step?
I would start with some low barrier suppliers. So you don't want to go contact Apple computers and Sony and say, hey, can I buy your laptops for half price? Obviously doesn't work that way. You have to work your way up to deals like that. So I'd say any huge brand, just don't even bother contacting it. Your best bet is probably mom and pop small brands where, they have a handful of grocery products, let's say. And, there are a lot of brands out there where you just fill out a form on your website and they'll send you the wholesale price list. And, you buy an order of a few SKUs and you spend a couple $1,000s and then, you sell those on Amazon. And they may not be the fastest movers in the world or the best margin in the world, but it's a way to get in the door. Somewhat of a hard reality in wholesale is that to compete for really fast moving products, you really need deep pockets. It's not for everyone. If you have $5,000 of savings and want to get into wholesale, you can't really, it does exclude you from a lot of products where you want to just focus on really small niche brands mom and pop brands or local wholesalers or distributors. There are distributors that will take orders of $1,000 or less. You may not be getting the best price, but you may get in the door that way, where you start, at a low volume or low margin, and then you can negotiate on your next order, get a little bit better price next time and a little bit better next time, and kind of just grow it from there. But the truth is that maybe not a lot of gurus will tell you is that it does take some deep pockets to just go out and get a big chunk of accounts that you apply for. Like you need to put your money where your mouth is. So if you're starting with a couple grand or $5,000, you want to start at the low stakes spots, which is like, these brands that'll just open anyone up. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how I got started. And then, as you have more capital, you can be more selective. But I would start with the small brands, local distributors. That would be my advice.
When you say deep pockets, can you give me a number?
Deep pockets, I don't mean like deep pockets as in billions. You don't need billions. The biggest wholesale sellers, it's on the order of millions. Maybe there are a few companies out there that are worth $1 billion, but almost everyone else, even top 100 Amazon sellers, they might have 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, but we're not talking billions here. But the deep pockets I mean is usually part of the negotiation. It's we'll do a massive order if we can secure this pricing. So that's a major strategy for us. We'll buy a truckload of this product. We're not messing around here. We're not a guy, selling out of his basement. We're serious, and we're going to, purchase 20,000 units of this product. And that'll usually perk their ears up. And then we say, but we need this price. And then we'll be very straightforward with them. We'll be like, we do sell on Amazon. We'll even take a rev seller chart or a keep-it chart and be like, here you go. We're making $1 each on this product and it costs us 20. That doesn't work for us at your pricing. So how much do we need to buy to get to the pricing we need? And, we work it that way. And usually it requires a huge amount of money, like 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand. So my business is starting to enter sort of big leagues where we're competing with people that can do $1 million purchase orders or $2 million orders. And so that's what I mean by deep pockets. There are people starting wholesale that do have 6 figures to spend on an order. And if you do, then you can use that to your advantage. Hopefully that clarifies what I mean a little more. We're talking, into the 6-figure range rather than your $5,000 bankroll.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've seen one of your Instagram shots of a purchase order, and it was 70,000, 50,000, unit line, and there was a 1,300. I was like, why are you buying that? That's completely pointless. And we had a little joke about it. You're like, it makes money. I'm going to buy it. So it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually part of the refinement process. So those are little remnants of the past. When I first started, it's it might have been worth my time to visit a tiny mom and pop supplier and buy the 3 items that work on Amazon and spend $800 on the order. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then as you grow, you kind of filter those out as maybe not worth it anymore and leave that to someone else to sell on Amazon. And that's cool.
Are you using software? Are you doing it manually? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a combination. So we will use a UPC scanner if it's some huge distributor with a massive catalog. But I'll be honest, we do a lot of the stuff manually. Even to this day, we'll open up brands with maybe 40 SKUs, and you don't need software for that. You can just manually go through and and check every product they have with what's on Amazon. And it's almost faster than trying to have some software spit out a few products at work. It also gives you a better feel for the product line. It's maybe you're seeing where there's some potential to actually put some listings on Amazon and be we can help you maximize your sales, have that conversation too. So we do a lot of stuff manually, actually. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially getting started. I maybe work too hard and not smart enough for some compared to some sellers my size, but it's always worked for us going manually. And then I have ways to whittle down a big catalog into something you could do manually. So one strategy I like to do is to break something down by brand, because let's say a distributor has 100 brands that they offer. You may find that 70 or 80 of those brands, the brand is either selling to Amazon and Amazon is retailing the product, or the brand is the only FBA seller on Amazon. So they're clearly not selling to other resellers. Or if you bought it from a distributor, they'd probably file IP complaints or message you at the very least, be like, get off our listings. So all of a sudden that 10,000 line catalog becomes a 1,000 line catalog. And then the brands that are left, the 20, 30 that could work, you can go into a Smart Scout and look at, what type of revenue they're doing. You may find out of that 20, there's only 5 brands left. And then it's okay, well, that 10,000 line catalog is now just 5 brands with 10 products each on them. And then you can go one by one, and then you can pick off maybe 10 products that work. So that's just one strategy where, you don't need a lot of fancy software. You can kind of just go on the brand level to narrow things down. But yeah, it's a combination of both, of course. Working hard hard and working smart is the ideal, of course.
Why do you work so hard?
Yeah, one example that made me say that recently, I was at a show called Amazon United, the first show just for Amazon wholesale sellers. Scott Needham was speaking there. He was speaking about repricing, how he automatically reprices his 50,000 SKU catalog every 3 hours. Then I'm just in the audience thinking, well, I'm paying a couple people and sometimes even myself going in and manually turning on repricing and manually typing in a min and max. And we're kind of just doing everything very laboriously, which again works up into a certain point. And I think I'm kind of at that point right now where we need to work smarter and get systems in place and utilize, software tools better. But I asked Scott, he's like, of course we don't have people manually plugging in mins and maxes. And, he applies like a formula to avoid stockouts. And, he's doing some very sophisticated stuff. And some other big sellers are doing similar things. And I was just sitting there at the conference. It's like, if I want to get to the next level, like the really upper echelon of sellers, top 100 or 200, I need to step up my game and utilize technology better.
It's kind of like you need to either be a developer or have a dev on call to help build these in-house. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, I think at this point to get up there, you need a development team or developers on staff that connect all these softwares together and a lot of automations, stuff like that.
So I just want to take a quick moment out of the interview to talk about scaling, doing things efficiently, and actually working smarter, not harder. Now, one of the most common things I see with Amazon sellers is the fact that they do work really, really hard. And this is great. This is what you've got to do. But there comes a time where you just run out of time in the day, but you still have more cash to invest. And what should you do? If you're thinking about doing wholesale, one of the easiest tasks to outsource is the ability to scan wholesale supplier lists. Literally going through every single line, copying and pasting it into Amazon, finding the products that are profitable. It's a very, very time-consuming job, which can easily be outsourced for just $3 an hour to someone in the Philippines. It takes time, but they've got to be trained. They understand how to go through this, and they can come back to you with all the opportunities, have that price list, and then you can go back to the supplier and negotiate the great prices, saving time, saving the analysis, and having a member of your team who's going to help you scale that business. And what I really love about this is you can actually keep hiring more VAs to actually scan more and more price lists. This is giving you a system, a factory with the ability to just analyze lots of supplier prices, supplier deals, and it's going to change the game. Within the Fast Track FBA VA Academy, we have fully trained VAs already who are experts at the deal analysis process, and they do a lot also around finding suppliers for OA, but that can easily be transitioned to the wholesale side. And they come with a 12-week unlimited replacement warranty. This means if you are not happy with that VA at any point over the first 12 weeks, you can just drop us a message and we will replace them free of charge. We'll even reset the timer. And on top of this, we give you support, we give you guidance, bonus schemes, structures, everything that you need to know, 2 weekly support calls, and we'll give you and your VA one-to-one support for the first 12 weeks to make sure that you really understand what you're doing. And we have trained over 750 virtual assistants for Amazon sellers just like you who are looking to scale. If you're interested, check out the Fast Track FBA VA Academy. I'll drop a link down below. Let's get back to the interview. The one thing we kind of hear about within the wholesale space is the fact that don't say you sell on Amazon. How does that conversation go? And do you not get the problems that everyone else seems to get?
There are varying theories on that and opinions on that. Yes, you can be a seller that just buys huge quantities from brands and then turns around and sells it on Amazon or distributes it to some other store that sells on Amazon. That is a viable opportunity, but it's not one I want to be involved with. I sleep much better at night knowing the brands know who I am, what I'm doing, that I'm selling on Amazon. So I just make it a policy to not make it a secret. I just don't think that's going to lead to good things and good relationships long term with the brands. We're pretty much upfront. As an Amazon seller, you want to make yourself seem as big as possible. So what we do, we don't say we're an Amazon seller. We say we're an e-commerce retail company that sells on 5 different channels. We kind of brag and boast and make us seem like this big ecosystem where we're on Walmart, eBay, Canada, internationally, wholesale distribution, 2 warehouses, logistics. Oh, and by the way, Amazon US. Yeah, that is a channel we sell on. We kind of downplay it and make ourselves seem bigger. And I think that strategy kind of helps at least start a conversation. And then we hit them with the money. It's yeah, we're serious. We'll buy a truckload right off the bat. That way they know it's Amazon, but they consider us a top tier Amazon seller / partner. Now that they know that we're selling on Amazon, then we can just hit them with the actual facts. is like, hey, these numbers are just too tight. And we talk about our overhead. So it's like we shoot for 20+% gross margin. Our overhead's, 5 to 10%. And then if we put in anything into ad spend for your brand, like we need even better. So we like kind of just hit them with what we need to just even sustain a very small profit for our business. And then that's kind of a negotiating tactic. And then we also demonstrate expertise by showing the Amazon calculator and like explain how FBA fees work and stuff. A lot of these brands are truly clueless. They have great products, but they just don't know Amazon that well. So our strategy is kind of like open, honest. We're an open book. We do what we say we'll do. You can reach us anytime. That works with a lot of brands. It doesn't work with every brand. I mean, our success rate's still only, 20% probably for brands we reach out to, but we kind of have a reach out machine going. We have a list of 1,000 brands that we're yet to reach out to. We just have so many, and we frankly don't even need any more accounts. So we just have a kind of a sales machine going, and it is what it is. We close a certain percentage, and of the percentage we close, a small percentage of those work. So it's just, it's a numbers game.
Are you happy to share that percentage? I think if anyone's looking, like that would be really like, if I were to do 1,000 brands, like how many might I be able to get on board? And I appreciate your numbers are going to be different because you're experienced, you're a bigger operation, it, but like what might be some good numbers for people to look at in like 1,000 brands if they contact?
I'd say like in terms of getting a price list and getting a real conversation going, maybe 30% would be a great number to look at. Like 20 to 30% would be probably about right. And then of those brands, I would say 25 to 30% will actually work in terms of like you can buy the product profitably and resell it. Maybe that's a little conservative. Maybe it's more like half and half. It is a legitimate like sales pipeline. So like a lot of companies or a lot of people would do well to treat it that way instead of like getting discouraged after 2 no's. Consider it like, 1,000 brands and there's stages of the process. So like initial reach out, and then stage 2 is like a response, and stage 3 is like they actually send you a price list. Stage 4, like you found products. Stage 5, like you're going to buy the product. It funnels down 1,000 brand contacts. You're looking at maybe, 50 accounts, 25 to 50 accounts. And guess what? 25 to 50 accounts is a whole business. I mean, that's enough, more than enough.
Do you ever do like brand exclusive? No, that's right. Do you do brand exclusive? Is that something that you go down? And how does that work on those like 50 to 1 of them?
Yeah, we're trying. Yeah. So we have one almost exclusive. We have a few semi-exclusive deals where we're one of like 4 or 5 sellers max. And maybe someday they'll go fully exclusive. Yeah, we've been lucky to just have, a handful of very good accounts that are good for a lot of sales. So, our top 5 accounts constitute like, over half of our sales, and we have about 100 active accounts. So yeah, it's pretty top heavy. So we're kind of changing strategy to like double down on our best accounts, make sure we're always in stock of everything, reporting monthly sales numbers, telling them about authorized, unauthorized sellers. It's everything we can possibly do to like make those brands happy. Because that's where wholesale is headed, I think. Either like, there's a company as an exclusive agent for a brand or an exclusive reseller, and the brands are getting smarter. They're selling themselves more and more often. So I think if you want to be in Amazon long term and have like a really legitimate wholesale business in Amazon, you need some sort of product around what you can do for a brand, not just resell their product. You have to do more than that these days. And we kind of promise that we'll do more, and we do more than just resell, but we don't do much more, if I'm being perfectly honest. So that's an initiative working on the next year, like actually coming up with a product, not a physical product, but like our pitch. Here's what we do for you, like from listing optimization to the ad stuff to, the whole 9 yards, and like a very clear scope of work and a contract and everything, and kind of just really legitimize it. I know I'm talking more advanced stuff right now. Hopefully people are getting value out of it.
Lots of people are doing it. Amazon's getting more competitive. And the question comes, if you're just buying and selling, it's like, you're the same as everyone else. If the brand isn't going to sell direct, they're going to sell through one of you. It's like, what value do you bring outside of buying the product? Because they might as well just sell to Amazon. It's like, well, no, these guys actually give us a lot of consultation. They give us a lot of feedback about how we can develop our product, what we can do, improve listings. We do marketing strategies. We get, more information about it. They help us manage the people doing fakes, for example. Like all of this is like, we value the service you bring. And I think that's so important.
I have this visual in my head, like a brand has a sales pie, and I imagine it like a pizza pie, basically, where it's like, if they have 4 sellers, you can envision the pie sliced into 4. And then like those 4 sellers get a quarter of the sales. And then you add a 5th, and then the pie sliced into 5 and a 6th and a 7th and an 8th and 20. And all that's happening is the same sales number is just getting sliced smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So like when I was first starting my journey, I couldn't couldn't understand why these companies would say no. It's like, I'm trying to buy your product. I'm trying to give you $10,000. I can't believe that you're not willing to sell me this product. And now I completely understand it. It's like, you as the 20th seller, all you do is cannibalize the existing sales. They don't make more money by selling to you. In fact, they make less money because they are now dealing with more customers. They have to do more invoicing, more smaller orders, and their sales pie just gets sliced smaller. And any company is going to want to deal with one or select few legitimate businesses to just not only deal with their existing sales revenue, but strategize to increase the revenue, make the pizza bigger and bigger. Like those are the partners every brand wants, not just reseller number 15,
I would like to talk more about kind of high level, but before I jump into that, I'd like to really talk about kind of cash scaling, and in particular around like cash flow management. My God, at your operation, how do you manage your cash flow? What does it look like? Tips and tricks, things that go wrong. Tell me about that. Because you buy deep as well, don't you?
Yeah, we buy pretty deep. Yeah, we manage cash flow with great difficulty. It's a bit of a scramble every month to waiting for that disbursement to come in, and then which credit cards to pay and when, and looking at all the due dates and figuring out which one I'm going to pay. If you've done your job right, that's kind of where you want to be. Maybe not as aggressively as I do it, but if you have an excess of capital just sitting there, it means you're just not buying enough inventory, or ideally you should be right on the brink of like spending everything, but also not getting yourself into a hole. I'm guilty of being too aggressive, where I just see a deal and I have a bunch of money in the bank and I just don't really look at, can I afford this right now? What bills do I have coming due? And then now I have suppliers with net 30 terms that I'll forget about it. Like I'll do a $70,000 order, I ship it in, and then I buy a big thing, and then, oh yeah, my invoice is due right now. Great. So it's another thing I'm trying to fix. I got a bookkeeping service that also can do like CFO and accounting services, and that's going to hopefully help manage cash flow a little better. So it's like I'm just kind of just juggling everything in my head, and I'm right at that point where I need something more legitimate to manage cash flow. But in terms of general purchasing strategy, if let's say you have a finite amount of cash and you have a lot of products to buy and not even enough money to buy them all, how do you prioritize which products to buy? Well, that's very simple. It's just whatever gives you the highest ROI and margin. So I have some products that are very high ticket, like electronics, that on a gross profit level, each SKU might make me $10,000 profit a month, which is fantastic. But I have to spend $200,000 or maybe $100,000 to achieve that $10,000 profit a month. So my ROI on that's only like 10%. So if I had $100,000, I would probably look to buy that last and look at the items like that cost $2 and make $2, and then I'm making 100% ROI. So like kind of like rank your products in terms of like highest ROI and margin. Start at the highest and then go all the way down to the lowest. If you have a major excess of capital, sure, buy the electronics that make 10% ROI and $20 gross profit. But before you do that, buy the higher ROI stuff. Then in terms of how deep to go on items, ROI is also involved. So like I have no problem if I need to buy 6 months of stock on a $2 item that makes $2 or $3 at 100% ROI. I have no problem buying 6 months of stock, warehousing it in my warehouse, and then feeding it in over time. But I would never do that with an electronics item that makes 10% ROI, where I have to spend $500,000 and then, sell it over 6 months. Like I'm only willing to go deep. Like the deeper I'm willing to go, the better the ROI has to be, basically. The low ROI fast movers, I'd want to buy those every 2 to 4 weeks, ideally, if possible. The cheap, high ROI stuff, I'm comfortable going deeper. So those are some of the factors I consider when spending money every month.
I'm guessing you probably do, but do you like external financing, like loans, for example? And like,
yeah, so I do have an Amazon loan.
Interest rates on it. Like, what do you see?
One thing I would say is for any, beginner sellers, utilize credit cards as much as you can, both for the points and also credit cards is like getting payment terms. It's due 30 to 45 days later. So it can be a really useful tool. It does introduce some additional risk, if products don't sell as fast as you thought they would, and then you have a big credit card bill due. So ease into it and make sure those payments can be made. Even I struggle with that sometimes, like timing everything perfectly. But yeah, credit cards are a great tool that I do utilize. Periodically, I'll try and just increase my credit lines on all my cards. I have like 7 or 8 different business cards and probably have 400,000 or 500,000 available credit across my business credit cards. So that's obviously a useful tool. I probably get about 100,000, 150,000 just in cash back and points and stuff. And, that obviously adds up. That's tool number one. Another tool, like you mentioned, would be an Amazon loan, which I've taken advantage of. I have a $2 million Amazon loan right now at 13% interest. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. There's definitely worse interest rates out there, especially with interest rates being much higher now. It's like starting at, 7, 8, 9%. Amazon's loan is maybe a little higher than like a bank loan, but it's not, the approval process is so easy. So I think it's still perfectly fine to take an Amazon loan, and definitely recommend it if you have all the products lined up that you want to use the money to spend with, because you're going to make 10 times as much as your interest in profit if you're doing it right. And then as you get, really legit, you can go to a bank, like a local bank. Usually the national ones won't give you a big loan for your Amazon business, but you might find a local bank or credit union to give you a business line of credit or a longer term loan. The problem with the Amazon loan is it's just a 12-month term. So they take massive chunks of the money back every month. So like I'm paying $180,000 out of my disbursement, every other disbursement. And that kind of cripples you. Amazon's offering the wrong product. What it really should be is a credit line that you can utilize. They give you the money, you keep it there, and then you just pay the interest. And you pay it down a little bit, but just a renewable credit line is just such a better product for an inventory business. I don't know why Amazon offers this 12-month term loan. It's sometimes lower, where they give you all this money, then you have to pay it back so quickly, and it kind of puts you back where you started. So I think the terms of the Amazon loan are not ideal, but the interest rate and how easy they make it is fantastic. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. The best financing you could get for your business is like a commercial line of credit. That's what I would recommend as you grow.
When you look at Amazon loans, I've seen it in my own Amazon account. You get like the Goldman Sachs, the Marcus, or whatever it is. They look like line of credit. Is that not something that you've considered?
It is. I actually took a Marcus one a couple of years ago, paid it off, and then they actually just sent me a new offer for like 15% a year or something, which I'm probably going to take. If I were a seller faced with either the term loan or line of credit offer, I would take the line of credit.
Even at a higher rate?
Because the Marcus one, for instance, even at a slightly higher rate, I think, because you don't have to pay back these huge chunks. You can keep that money like in the business working for you. And I think that advantage outweighs the additional interest cost by a good amount. I would recommend the line of credit over the term loan for most people.
You talked about local banks. I heard from someone else in an interview, like it's about the personal relationship with local banks.
Yeah,
like,
it can be. Yeah.
As in like getting to know the manager at the store. Is that something that you agree with or disagree? I'm not like, what have you seen?
Yeah, I agree with that somewhat. I mean, it's a combination of that and also the strength of your business. I'd say that comes first over any personal relationships. But yeah, local banks can bend the rules a little bit more. But if you walk into like a Bank of America or Chase and try and get a big loan, they'll pretty much uniformly decline you. And there's a big reason why banks are reluctant to lend to Amazon sellers. It's because your collateral, aka your inventory, is mostly located at Amazon fulfillment centers. So these banks are like, okay, what happens if you don't pay the loan? What collateral are we going to seize to, make ourselves whole? And then they see that your inventory is located at 50 different fulfillment centers all across North America, and they don't understand Amazon. They don't even know if they can have access to your account. They don't know what a removal order is. They don't know any of this stuff. So all they see is, oh, well, your inventory is not even at your warehouse. How would we ever get our money back if you defaulted on the loan? And then they'll pretty much uniformly decline you. However, as your revenue and your income starts getting more and more legitimate, more banks are interested in delving into it or taking a chance on you or adding, an e-commerce seller to diversify their portfolio of loans. It's like, they have loans in different industries. And like, if you have really strong financials and you're operating like a legitimate company, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll give this e-commerce guy a loan. But yeah, even the local banks, I mean, I tried and failed to get a bank loan, but I got very close. I'm going to try again next year. They raised the same concerns like collateral, and they were just kind of uneasy about the whole thing. So, but the industry is evolving and maturing. So I'm seeing more and more banks like partner up and try and like provide some sort of product for e-com sellers. So I think in the coming years, you will see really good financial solutions for e-com sellers outside of just trying to get a traditional bank loan, and also outside of just Amazon lending. There's going to be like an in-between. I would look out for that type of stuff.
Before we move on to expert level, which is masterminding, I really want to jump into, I just want to ask you, what are like 3 top things, if you had to reflect on them, that helped you reach to the, should we say, your current level?
Yeah, so I would say not taking money out of my business would be a huge one, as I've touched on earlier. Reinvesting profit into more inventory. I think that's essential for growth. So that would be one. Number 2, I ascribe somewhat to luck, but also just, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I hit on those couple of products during COVID that generated a couple 100,000 profit, and then that really catapulted me. So finding a couple big winners and taking the risk and going all in on those, that would be another big one for me. And yeah, I would say this is a good segue into the rest of the segment too. Having a good Amazon partner, like another seller to bounce ideas off. month and helping each other out with best practices. That enabled both of us to grow faster than I think we would have alone.
So let's move on to that kind of like other Amazon seller masterminding. If anyone doesn't know, the last time I interviewed you, you talked about you moved into a warehouse, which I understood had 3 other sellers in it. Was that right?
Yeah, it had 2 other sellers back when I was in New Jersey. I shared a suite with another Amazon seller, and then there's a third one that ended up being in the building too. And then my most recent warehouse in Massachusetts, I share with one other seller. We share 10,000 feet. He happens to be my best friend in real life too. We have kind of like carbon copies of each other's business. Yeah, we've been instrumental in each other's growth. A lot of people would shy away from that and have a lot of concerns about like, mixing accounts and stuff. And like, we're very cautious to never do that. We don't share the same internet. We, keep everything separate. It comes down to like a mentality. Like a lot of people are afraid if someone learns one of your trade secrets that it's all over for you and your business is going to burn to the ground. Then there's another mentality, which is like, it's a big ocean out there and we're all just little fish swimming in it and we can band together and all do things better and we all benefit. That's the mentality I bring to Amazon, and it's done nothing but help me, which is why I'm willing to share even, what some would consider secrets for the business. I'm fine talking about them. I'm not going to just give up all my products. And, it's not about being stupid and sharing every single thing, but you can share most and more than you think you can. And you're going to be just fine. There's a time and a place for sharing business ideas and not, if I'm Apple, I'm not going to say, hey, Samsung, here's like my latest chip algorithm or whatever, or like camera improvement. Of course not. Like if you're one of a few big players and it's cutthroat and you're trying to gain any edge you can on the other person, like I understand that. Amazon is just a different ecosystem. It's a huge ocean. There's hundreds of thousands of sellers in it. No single seller can dominate market share of even a small category or a niche within a category. It's just so large out there that you're better off learning from each other and learning best practices than shielding something and trying to protect it. So that's just my thought on that. Others may disagree, but I've had nothing but good results with that mentality. So
I think you're right. I think the one thing which I read, I hear, I talk about, or like I hear from other people is just like the networking, building a network, building a mastermind of similar sellers with the same mindset of you is probably one of the most influential, impacting things that you can do within your business. And generally the cost is nothing. The upside is like so amazing. You said this is your best friend, but was he your best friend before you started, or has he become your best friend now? Like, how do you vet each other? Let me ask that question.
So he actually was my best friend growing up from my hometown. We met when we were like 10 years old and we were friends all throughout high school, and his life took a totally different path than mine. We lived in different states for like 15 years. When I first started Amazon, I just was talking about it with him, and he was looking for a career change too. So I was about a year ahead of him, and then he kind of just started doing what I was doing. And then we both were very fortunate to just grow like at similar trajectories alongside each other. So I'm just beyond lucky to be able to, do it all with a good friend too, on top of, all the success. But in terms of vetting someone, yeah, I mean, so being my friend, we're naturally like yin and yang a little bit. Like I'm more of like a visionary idea guy, like high level thinking. He's more of like an executor. It's like he'll take an idea, he'll keep the good ones, throw away the bad ones, and then execute on the good ones, perhaps better than I even do. So I kind of like feed both businesses like the ideas and the next thing, and then he kind of like filters out some of the junk and like takes the good and filters out the bad. So it's like a natural partnership. The way we think is different, the way we act is different, and just kind of work for us. In terms of finding someone out of the blue, it's probably a little tricky because there are some issues of like fairness. Like you want someone like who's sort of like your intellectual equal, so you don't want someone that you don't respect. You need to respect them on some level, either respect their sales or respect their opinions on things. And the only way to find that out is to converse with them. But if you guys get along, that's a great starting point. Like see if you get along on a personal level and see if you respect their business and what each other's doing. Like you kind of want to find either your equal in terms of like sales, or someone ideally even who's a step ahead of you or a few steps ahead of you. I think it's just kind of like, do you get along? Do you view the other person as having something to add, and then like can you add something to them, which may take some trial and error. It's like I said, I'm just lucky that I found like not only the right person but the right dynamic to make that happen. But I think if you're in like a Discord or a group or a mastermind, I think if people are commenting, you'll find like the few people you respect and you'd want to work with, and then go ahead and DM them and see if you can get something going, just like private conversations, and be willing to offer something. On Instagram, a lot of people they kind of just want to like take. That's not the the way to go about it. You want to be able to offer something first, have it be a two-way street. Some people are kind of just annoying. It's like, what do you use for this? What do you do for that? What do you think of that? Just all these like feed me information type questions. And no, you want to ask good questions, and you also want to be able to answer questions. You got to do your part as well if you want to mastermind. It's not just take, it's also give.
I'm going to talk about the visionary and the integrator, which is like traction methodology. The two of you have like, you're the visionary and your friend is the integrator. Is that quite clearly defined with you two? As in like, you understand that they are your strengths. Do you proactively play to them, or are you quite passive in that, in like, you kind of do what you want, but like, you just appreciate that you're probably a bit more visionary than him? How does that work?
We just kind of have a quiet understanding about it, I guess. And it's really funny you brought up that book, because I've just started reading it a week ago, and reading that, I was like, holy crap, I'm a visionary. Like I looked at this questionnaire, I'm like, I am that to a T, like absolutely. And then the integrator is just like my friend Jeff. So, and then I'm like, oh, well, that makes even more sense why this just works out so well, because we have that natural balance. So I didn't want to mention a very specific book or methodology, but like, yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's never been said out loud until I read that. I'm like, holy crap.
In that reflection, in that issue that the two of you working together, is there anything which didn't work well? Anything that if anyone looking to replicate it, maybe it may be like two or a couple of group of people, you say, look, just be careful about the following. We've seen that and here's how we dealt with it.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I'll mention is the notion of fairness. So at first I kind of like brought my friend along and I was feeding him accounts. I was like getting all the good accounts myself. And then, it was good that we could use his money too to like put together a big order. So like if you work very closely with one or two sellers, sometimes you can split big wholesale orders, which is a way to like get better pricing without the deep pockets that I mentioned. Like you can pool funds and just try but at the same time, if one person is getting all the good accounts and the other one's kind of just, getting on those accounts, then feelings of unfairness can develop. So I was kind of like the account getter for years and years. And then I kind of like stopped wanting to give my friend accounts. And then he eventually got a buyer and now he's getting his own accounts and he's kind of like paying me back, sharing stuff back with me. But like, that's part of the balance you want to strike. It's like, you want to make sure people are like contributing in ways that you think are fair, because otherwise feelings will start developing of like, I'm doing everything, or I'm the expert, I know way more than this guy. And like, that's why I mentioned like, you kind of want to find your equal, where you feel like there's an equal like push pull give take type of thing. I'll just be cognizant of that. And then and yeah, just be selective with who you work with. I mean, there's a lot of Amazon sellers these days, and like, I used to say yes to everyone and everything way too often, and now my mentality is more like, no, I'm gonna just choose the people that I want to work with, because like, especially as like you get bigger, it's like everyone around you wants like, holy crap, I want to do what you do, like show me Amazon, like, and I used to kind of like be willing to talk about it with anyone at length, but now it's just like, no, I want, just be careful, like just choose a few quality people. That's going to be better than like having 50 Amazon acquaintances.
When you do bulk purchasing, you said deep pockets, combining money, how does that operationally work? I'm guessing you're not paying the wholesaler from two different companies.
It's a little tricky.
Or you transfer it to one company and then they pay? How does it happen?
It's a mix of both. So like sometimes the company doesn't care. They'll take on like two Amazon sellers we'll be like, consider us one and the same. We have two stores, but we work very closely together. So we kind of tell the brand, and then some brands will be like, okay, no problem. We'll do two separate payments, two separate invoices, but we'll still get that price tier as if it was one order. Others, we fly a little bit under the radar, where like we assume that the brand won't really care if like my store pops up on the listing or vice versa. So like we'll do the whole order through, the one company that got the account, not to complicate matters, because like what we want to avoid is getting a new account and then be like, oh, by the way, it's actually two companies and we need two invoices, and like they're going to be like, what's going on here? Like, this is weird. So often for the first order, we'll just get it done through one company, and then I will pay I'll pay the other business my half of the order, and then it'll all come into his warehouse, and then we'll split it up, just to be very easy to work with the first time. And then usually after you spent like $100K plus with a brand, they're like, you're in their good graces, and then you're like, oh, by the way, I have another very legitimate seller. We work very closely together. Like, he'd also like an account. Can we get him onboarded as well? And then most of the time they'll say yes. That's kind of how we approach that.
Do you ever get issues like product authenticity for Amazon, going back to the manufacturer because like you didn't buy it from the manufacturer? Like, is that a problem at all or not?
We do get inauthentics. Usually our invoices work. So we'll just grab the invoice, and probably 80% of the time it works. And then often, I mean, this is not a best practice, but usually we'll let a few go if we can like address reps most of them and get most of them off. Our account health score is always at 1,000, and like our sales volume. I think Amazon does a better job of seeing how big your account is. I think years ago they would just suspend any account of any size for like seemingly random infractions. But I think their account health system has gotten smarter, where it recognizes your sales volume and like recognizes there's going to be a certain amount of complaints versus compared to your orders and stuff. So like I feel a lot more comfortable than I used to. So what I do with Inauthentics and every type of complaint, I will appeal them with the invoices I have, and we'll usually win most of them. And if a few stay on there, I'm not really going to go crazy vigilant to try and track down everything. I would take it more seriously as a newer seller. If two Inauthentics could suspend your account, yeah, you want to be ultra vigilant. Make sure you leave no stone unturned in trying to appeal those. But I've become a little bit complacent, thinking that I'm probably just good if I get most of them off, and a couple stay on there.
Now, I appreciate you're not just doing Amazon wholesale, are you? You actually decided to start another business. Tell me about that. What is that and why?
So I was looking for properties. I sold a property, a residential property, and they have this thing called a 1031 exchange, where you don't have to pay capital gains taxes when you sell a property if you like buy another property. So I was looking for properties to buy with like the sale proceeds. And at first I was looking at like other residential properties, but I'm like, you know what? I could actually buy like a warehouse for my business. So I started dabbling, looking around at commercial spaces. And then I found this really nice warehouse up in New Hampshire. It was like right in the price range. I'm like, you know what? I might just try and buy this warehouse, and like I can utilize it for my business. And I'm like, wait a second, it's in New Hampshire. It's a sales tax free state. I could probably start a prep center, which has kind of been in the back of my head. Like, it would be very easy for me to do like a ancillary business related to what I'm already doing, like, because I'm already kind of a built-in expert on prep just by way of running a large store. So I had the idea to start a prep center, and I bought the building about a year ago. And yeah, it's been a lot of work and a lot of setup, and we're finally at the point where I think things are really on point and going well. So I've got that going, and I'm spending about half my time on that, and it's forcing me to be a better business owner rather than operator, because I really need to just be hyper focused on like delegating tasks to other people, because it's literally impossible to run two businesses on a full-time basis. So it's kind of forcing me to level up and be a true business owner, which is hopefully going to benefit both of my businesses. And yeah, in terms of prep, I mean, things are going pretty well. We're pretty much at capacity, but we do have like a wait list for anyone that would be interested. We do OA prep because it's a tax-free state, but we're also doing wholesale, private label, storage, FBM. We can pretty much do it all. So if anyone is interested, I'm happy to share the link to the website and all that stuff. But just know that there is probably going to be a wait list. We don't want to be one of those overpromise, underdeliver prep centers. We need to make sure we have the staff in place to handle the additional volume. So, but if you'd like to work with a prep center, then yeah, be happy to have the business.
What's the name of the prep center? In case someone wants to Google it or search for it.
Yeah, the prep center is called Epic Prep, and the website is epicprepllc.com. It's in Exeter, New Hampshire. If you just Google Epic Prep LLC, the website should come up. And the best way to inquire about prep is just to fill out the form on the website, and then we can send you all the specifics about everything.
I love it. If anyone's interested, have a look to the link down below. I'll drop a link there as well. So if anyone's getting in contact with you, what's the best way? How can they do that?
Yeah, best way to get in contact would just be my Instagram, 1000 ASINs. But feel free to DM me on there. And I don't post all that consistently. I do want to change that and post a lot more content in the future. Feel free to shoot me a DM and connect.
Dan, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing everything. And like, I will do this. I will fly out and meet you, and obviously come to a live interview in person when you have time and I have time. And we can also talk about traction and learn like how that's changed the game as well. So I look forward to that. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you as well. And have a good one. Talk soon.
Take care.
Take care.